If you've ever looked at a cryptic crossword and been like, what? Then this is the video for you. Welcome to part 3 of Cryptic Crosswords Made Easy, how to solve cryptic crosswords for beginners. Today, we're going to talk about the final 4 major clue types. What's up, Groovy Gang? Azmain here, junior doctor from London. I make videos about medicine, music, productivity, and learning new skills like cryptic crosswords so that you can reach your potential. If you've got any video ideas or topics you want me to cover, leave it in the comments below. Let's go! In part 1, I explained the basics of cryptic crosswords and discussed anagrams, charades, and hidden word type clues. In part 2, we covered double definitions, containers, deletions, homophones, and reversals. Links to both of those are in the description. In this video, part 3, we are going to cover cryptic definitions, letter banks, Spoonerisms, and literal clues. I highly recommend you watch parts 1 and 2 to understand how cryptic crosswords work and get a flavour of the simpler clue types. Don't worry, you'll still be able to follow along to this video, but be warned that these clues are harder than the ones before, but they are so much fun. Part 4 will discuss the importance of abbreviations, and part 5 will look at combination clues, which I've decided to do as a separate dedicated video. So please like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to be notified when those videos come out. Cryptic definitions. Here the clue appears to say one thing, but a shift of perspective reveals another meaning, just like a pun. They're often indicated by a question mark, and this kind of clue requires lateral thinking, where you have to interpret the clue's component words differently compared to normal. So try to think of alternative pronunciations and meanings. This is perhaps the oldest type of cryptic clue, appearing in crosswords from the 1920s and 30s. Here's an example: Flower of London, 6 letters. When we read the word flower, it makes us think of blossoming plants like roses, sunflowers, and tulips, but the question mark gives us a hint that there's something not quite right here, that there's some trickery involved. We need to go beyond the obvious surface reading. What if we pronounce the word flower differently? What if we said it as flower instead, something that flows like water? Okay, so is there something belonging to the city of London that flows? Well, rivers flow through cities, and London's main river is the River Thames, which just so happens to have 6 letters, so that's our answer. Here are a couple more short fun ones for you to guess. This cylinder is jammed, 5 and 4 letters. Pause now to work it out. So the answer is Swiss roll, which is a cylindrical shaped food that is filled with jam. Die of cold, 3 and 4 letters. Pause now to work it out. So die could be interpreted as the singular form of dice, which is shaped like a cube. So what's cold and cube shaped? An ice cube, of course. Letter banks. So these are harder versions of anagram clues. These contain short words with no repeated letters, also known as isograms, that are rearranged to form the answer. But letters from the bank can be used more than once, unlike an anagram. Indicators include ingredients, components, parts, letters, everything you need, chopped up, reused. And these clues are newer and rarer, but they are definitely figure-outable. Here's an example: characteristic of lamb on ice, with ingredients chopped up and reused, 9 letters. Let's break that down. With ingredients chopped up and reused, that's our indicator that this is a letter bank type clue. On ice is a short phrase with no repeated letters, an isogram, so this is probably our letter bank that we need to use. That leaves characteristic of lamb at the beginning of the clue, which is the definition. So what are the characteristics of a lamb? They're white, woolly, cuddly, dare I say tasty. But there's also the phrase as innocent as a lamb, which describes someone who is blameless or inexperienced, so let's keep that in mind. So for this clue, we have to reuse and rearrange the letters in on ice to make a 9-letter word that means characteristic of lamb. Can you work out the answer? Pause to figure it out. So the answer is, of course, innocence. Here's another example: existential question latent in Bronte's letters, 222 322. Now that's the number of letters in each of the 6 words of this answer. Latent in Bronte's letters tells us that Bronte is the letter bank we need to use. And the answer is an existential question that's 6 words long, so it's probably a common phrase. Your knowledge of Shakespeare may come in useful here. So we can use the letters of Bronte to give us the phrase, to be or not to be. That is the existential question. Spoonerisms. Spoonerisms are named after Reverend William Archibald Spooner. He was a fellow at Oxford University who is famously absent-minded, and he accidentally mixed up the syllables within phrases that ended up sounding really funny. These clues switch around the first consonants of words and syllables, but not always. It might swap around the second letter, for example. This switch results in a new pair of proper sounding words. For example, butterfly becomes flutterby, and the indicator is almost always a reference to Reverend Spooner himself. So it's pretty obvious when you're dealing with a spoonerism, but that doesn't necessarily mean the answer is any easier to figure out. These are less common, but they do come up, so keep an eye out for them. Here's an example. He will casually put down Spooner's angry bear, 9 letters. Spooners tells us that this is a spoonerism. A synonym of angry is bitter. The verb to bear, as in to carry, could also be lug. And he will casually put down is the definition at the beginning of the clue. Can you think of a word that means someone who casually puts things down? Maybe throws trash out on the street? So we can put bitter and lug together, and if we switch around the first letters, we get litterbug. Here's another example. Spooner's eager budgie say gets food, 4 and 4 letters. Obviously another spoonerism because the clue tells us so. An eager budgie might be a keen bird. The indicator say gives us a clue that we need to find synonyms or examples of each word. So a synonym of eager is keen, and a budgie is a type of bird. The answer is probably a type of food. If you swap around the beginning sounds in keen bird, you get bean curd, which is a kind of food. Literal clues. These aren't clue types on their own, but variants of existing clue types. The entire clue can be read both as a standard definition and as a cryptic clue. And lit stands for and literally so. In other words, both the cryptic wordplay and literal meaning lead to the exact same answer, and they're sometimes, not always, indicated by an exclamation mark. Here's an example. Terribly angered, 7 letters. Terribly could be an anagram indicator. Angered has 7 letters. It's next to the indicator, so it's probably the word to be anagrammed. So if we make an anagram of angered, we get enraged. If we have a second look at the clue, someone who is terribly angered is literally enraged. The clue works both ways. How satisfying is that? Let's have a look at a few more clues. I'll leave them on the screen for you to figure out. Spoil vote, 4 letters. Spoil could be an anagram indicator. Vote has 4 letters. If we make an anagram of vote, we get veto, which could literally mean to spoil a vote. E.g., origin of goose, 3 letters. So the origin of goose could refer to the first letter of goose, G. If we put together E.g. and the G from goose, we get egg. And a goose, which is an example of a bird, could literally originate from an egg. God incarnate, essentially, 4 letters. Essentially could be a container indicator. So if we look at what's contained within God incarnate, we find Odin. In Norse mythology, Odin is king of the Norse gods, so he is quite literally a god incarnate, essentially. Make sure you watch the entire Cryptic Crosswords Made Easy series up here, and find my other videos on medicine, music, and productivity in this playlist here. Please like, subscribe, and stay tuned for part 4 on abbreviations, and as always, stay groovy.